Yo, the 2026 World Cup is almost here, and in today's video I'm going to be ranking every single country in the World Cup so far. I'm going to be ranking all 42 countries that have already qualified to the World Cup in 6 different categories: favorites, contenders, dark horses, could surprise, meh, or a group stage exit. I'm not going to go too in depth on every single country because I don't want this video to be like an hour long. So if you have any questions or want me to explain my ranking further, just leave a comment down below and I'll be sure to reply to every single comment. As always, remember to subscribe to the channel as I'm almost at 8,000 subscribers. And if you enjoy all the content I've been putting out, whether it's Champions League content, World Cup content, remember to subscribe to the channel and I'd be happy to welcome you to this community. But without further ado, let's get right into this ranking. Starting off with the first team, we have Argentina, and you already know where they're going to go, right into favorites. Obviously, Argentina are the current World Cup champions. They won the 2022 World Cup in an incredible fashion. That final game against France was probably the craziest final I've ever seen. But in my opinion, Argentina are definitely one of the favorites. Are they the favorite? In my opinion, no, but they're definitely a top 3 team. They have the experience, they have the manager, obviously they have the players. This is Messi's last World Cup most likely, so they're gonna want to do it for him, and for that reason they have to be in favorites. Moving on to the next country, we have Austria, and in my opinion, I'm gonna put Austria in could surprise. Now I do feel like Austria could move up to dark horses, but at the current moment I am going to put them in could surprise. They have a great manager in Ralf Rangnick. In my opinion, he is a fantastic manager, and he is the main reason why Austria are a good team, because realistically, if you look at some of their best players like Arnautovic, Sabitzer, Alaba, they are starting to get into their later 30s, and to be honest, they haven't really been the best at integrating young talent into their team. But with their manager and with their more disruptive play style, I do feel like they will be a pretty challenging team in this World Cup. Moving on to the next country, we have Australia, and once again I am going to put them in the could surprise category. Now a lot of people may say meh, some people may say dark horses, but in my opinion, even though Australia may not have the best team in the World Cup, they always perform. If you remember the last World Cup, they made it to the round of 16. And like I said, I don't think they have the best team, and they do play a more defensive style of football, but they have some crazy passion. And for that reason, they could definitely surprise a lot of people. Moving on to the next team, we have Belgium. And in my opinion, I'm going to put Belgium in dark horses. Some people may have them higher in contenders, but for me, Belgium aren't really as good of a team as they were throughout the last decade. Now they still have some great players, and they do have some great young players as well. If you look at Jeremy Doku, I think he's been such a fantastic player with Man City this season, but I'm not a fan of their manager Rudy Garcia. I was never a fan of him with the clubs that he managed. When he came to Napoli, I hated him, I despised him, and once again I feel like Belgium may be held back due to their manager, but I still think they're a good team, and for that reason I put them in the dark horse category. Moving on to the next country, we have Brazil, and I'm actually going to put Brazil in the favorites category. Yes, I do think Brazil are definitely a top 5 team in this World Cup, and some people may have them in the contenders, and especially after their World Cup qualifiers, they were pretty shocking. They finished in 5th place, having gotten 8 wins, 4 draws, and 6 losses, which is very disappointing. But obviously a lot of those losses were with their previous manager, and now they have hired Carlo Ancelotti, who I think is a great manager, obviously in competitions like probably the World Cup. Obviously we've seen him in the Champions League with Real Madrid and how incredible he gets his team to play. And even though Carlo Ancelotti's teams don't always look like the best team out there, he has the winning ways, and Brazilian players this season have been incredible. I feel like their midfielders like Paqueta, like Guimarães especially, like Casemiro with Man United, all these players have been fantastic this season. Their attackers with Estevão, João Pedro, Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo, whoever it is, they have some great players. Now I will say defensively, it may be a little bit of a struggle for Brazil. Obviously they have Gabriel, who's been fantastic, but in terms of their fullbacks and even players like Marquinhos with PSG, they haven't been having the best season. But I still feel like Brazil will come back in this World Cup. I think they'll have an incredible tournament, and that's why I got them in the favorites. Moving on to the next country, we got Canada. Come on, Canada! This is my country, and we're going to have a fantastic World Cup. I think. I hope. Realistically, Canada's gonna go in meh. I'm sorry to all my Canadians out there. I'm sorry. I'm Canadian myself. I want to put us higher, but I got to be realistic. Canada is a meh team. Under Jesse Marsh, yes, they've been playing much better than we've seen them play in past competitions and obviously in the last World Cup, but the attacking positions in Canada is not looking too promising. Obviously, we see players like Jonathan David, we see players like Buchanan, we still see players like Kyle Larin, we see a youngster in Promise David, and yes, these are all talented players, but a lot of them this season haven't been having the performances with their clubs that we want to see and that will most likely translate to the World Cup. So for that reason, I feel like in the attack, Canada may struggle, and that's why sadly I can't put them any higher than meh. Moving on to the next country, we got Switzerland, and I think that Switzerland could actually be a dark horse in this World Cup. Now obviously they could always underperform, but I think they have a great manager in Murat Yakin. I think they have some great attackers with players like Mbolo, with players like Vargas, with other players like Ndoye. Obviously, if you look at their midfield, still being led by Granit Xhaka, he's having an incredible season with Sunderland, such a resurgence. And in the World Cup qualifiers, Switzerland didn't lose a single match. They won 4 and they drew 2. And for that reason, I think they could definitely make it a lot further than expected. Moving on to the next country, we got Cote d'Ivoire. And for me, I'm going to put them in could surprise. Now, this is a really close one between could surprise and dark horses, because before the AFCON, I wasn't that convinced with Cote d'Ivoire, with Ivory Coast. Obviously, defensively, they are a very strong team. Realistically, they're probably a top 10 defensive team in this World Cup. But in the attack, I wasn't that convinced with them in the qualifiers. But we saw in the AFCON that their attack is incredible, and their young talents, players like Amad Diallo, players like Yan Diomande, are such fantastic players. They have the speed, they have the pace, they have the dribbling, and I think they could really shock a lot of people. They could possibly be in the dark horse category. We'll see. Maybe at the end of the video, I might move them up. But for now, I'm going to put them in could surprise. Moving on to the next nation, we got Colombia. And for me, I'm going to put Colombia in the dark horse section. And realistically, Colombia are almost in that contenders section. At the end of the video, I might move them up because I think Colombia are a really good team. They play some very attacking football. They're a very aggressive team, and they got some really good players. Obviously, Richard Rios in the midfield playing with James Rodriguez, who's still a very good player. In the attack with players like Luis Diaz, with Luis Suarez, who is a fantastic player. Not the Uruguayan Suarez, the Colombian Luis Suarez. He's already gotten like 20 something goals for Sporting. We've seen him score so many times in the Champions League, and I think their squad is really good. Now defensively, you could ask some questions, and their manager doesn't have the best tactics when it comes to their defense, but their attack and their midfield are stacked. And for that reason, I could see Colombia having a really good World Cup, maybe even making it to the quarterfinals, possibly even the semifinals as well. Moving on to the next country, we got Curacao, and I gotta put them in group stage exit. This is the first country that I don't think will make it out of the group stages. Now, obviously, you never know, right? We could see some crazy things from them, and they do have some pretty good attackers. They can score goals, but defensively, I just don't think they're good enough. Obviously, they're not a country that we usually see in the World Cup, so for that reason, I gotta put them in group stage exit. And sadly, joining them will be Curacao, who is the smallest nation to ever compete in a World Cup, and congratulations to them. But with that being said, I just don't see them making it out of the group stage. But a team that I do think will make it out of the group stage is Germany, and I think that Germany are a real contender in this World Cup. Low-key, they're getting close to favorites, and this is coming from a team in Germany who haven't been that good in recent competitions. Obviously, in the last Euros, they weren't that bad, but it was on home soil. But before that, in the World Cup, they were poor, and they haven't been good in the last 5 or so years. But I think this Germany in this World Cup will be fantastic. I think they have a great manager. I think that their team is incredible, and under Julian Nagelsmann, I think they play some really good football. And the thing with Germany is they have so many great young players like Musiala, players like Wirtz, all players who are very direct players, very attacking players. And that's what I love about German football, is they play so attacking. They want to score 3, 4, 5 goals in every single game they play. And for that reason, I could definitely see them making it to the quarterfinals 100%. Moving on to the next country, we got Algeria, and I'm going to put Algeria in could surprise. Realistically, before the AFCON, a lot of questions were being asked with Algeria. Obviously, in recent AFCON competitions, in the 2023 AFCON, the 2021 AFCON, we saw them get exited in the group stage in both competitions, which was so poor after they won the 2019 AFCON. So this AFCON in 2025 was a really important AFCON for them, and I think they were pretty good. Obviously they made it decently far, but there's still a lot of questions to be asked with their attack. We saw players like Guidi miss the AFCON due to injury, and we saw their main striker Amura be pretty silent in the AFCON. He is their main striker, and he didn't even get a goal in each game he played in the AFCON. So for that reason, I think Algeria have a great team. They obviously have some great youngsters. You look at players like Maza, who were very impressive in the AFCON, but they still leave something to be desired in the attack. I think Pektovic is a good manager, but I think they can do better. So for that reason, I think they could surprise, but I don't think they're going to make it that far in this World Cup. Moving on to the next country, we got Ecuador, and once again, I think I'm gonna put Ecuador in could surprise. Realistically, at the end of the video, I might move them up to dark horses because I think Ecuador are a really, really good team. In the qualifiers, we saw how scary they were. We saw how good they were defensively. In my opinion, I think Ecuador are arguably the best team defensively in the world. If you look at players like Caicedo, their defensive midfielder, you look at their defenders like Pacho, like Hincapié, they have some really, really good defensive players, and even in the midfield. But in the attack, I just don't think they have what it takes to make it as far as some of the nations in the dark horse section. I don't feel like they play the best attacking football. Defensively, they're incredible, but in the attack, they're definitely lacking a little bit. Moving on to the next nation, we have Egypt, and to be honest, I'm gonna put Egypt in meh. Now, obviously, I may move them up, but I just don't think they're going to have a good World Cup. And to be honest, if you look at my predictions about a month ago, I was saying that Egypt could possibly upset a lot of people. But when I take everything into account, when I take into account how they performed in the AFCON, when I take into account their manager Hossam Hassan, when I take into account that their youth system is horrible and they had the oldest squad in the AFCON, and all these players are just getting older by the day, I don't know if they're gonna have a good World Cup. Yes, they have some world-class players. You see players like Mohamed Salah. Obviously, they have players like Omar Mahmoush, and they have a few other good players as well. But like I already mentioned, they don't have the young talent. And if you look at some of their attackers, like for example Trezeguet in the AFCON, he just didn't get the goal contributions that you would want from a winger in this Egyptian team. And for that reason, I just don't think they're gonna have the best World Cup. Moving on to the next nation, we got Spain, and this is 100% going into the favorites category. Now for me, I've said it multiple times, I got Spain winning the World Cup. I think that Spain will win the 2026 World Cup. Is it a popular opinion? Probably not, but after what I've seen from them in recent competitions, what I saw from them in the 2024 Euros, and what I saw from them in the Nations League as well, I think De La Fuente is a perfect manager for this Spanish team. And the reason why is because obviously he was a manager for their youth team, and now being the manager of the national team, he's brought so many youth players into this national team. Players like Lamine Yamal, players like Fermin Lopez, so many other youth players as well, Kubarasi, just to name a few. And with the mix of amazing youth players that they have from Barcelona's academy, Real Madrid's academy, all these great Spanish academies, mixed with their older veterans that they have in the team who have experience winning multiple trophies, I think this Spanish team is incredible, and I think they're definitely the favorites to win the World Cup. But another country who are obviously one of the favorites is France. There's nowhere else to put them than in favorites. France won the 2018 World Cup, they made it to the finals in 2022, and once again, they will definitely make it to at least the semifinals. This is definitely Didier Deschamps' last World Cup, and they're gonna want to do it for him, but also the players that they have. We obviously know they got Kylian Mbappe. They got some great midfielders, Chouameni. They got players like Camavinga. They got some great defenders as well. Upamecano has been having a really good season this year with Bayern Munich. And the way they play football, they play such fluid football, such beautiful attacking football. I think France plays some of the best football in the world, and in this World Cup, they're obviously going to be one of the favorites. The next country we got is England, and I'm going to put England in favorites, but I'm not 100% certain that they're going to have the best World Cup. I think they could move down a ranking to the contenders section, because obviously England have a great team, and under Thomas Tuchel, I think Tuchel is a good manager, but we have seen them in the qualifiers struggle against oppositions that they should be beating 4 or 5-0. We saw them score 1 goal against Andorra. That's not good enough. Yes, they have amazing players, but I feel like with England, they never really have that chemistry. And defensively, I feel like that is the weak point of their team. Obviously, if you look at recent competitions, we've seen players like Harry Maguire, Luke Shaw, John Stones, but are they really the players that you want in this England team? In my opinion, you're going to want a player like Mark Guehi, but then again, he doesn't have that experience in these international games. So I feel like England may have a little bit of trouble on their hands. And for that reason, I'm still going to put them in the favorites category, but I don't really see a way that England win this World Cup. Moving on to the next team, we got Scotland. And for me, I'm going to put Scotland in meh. I'm sorry to say it, but I just don't think they're going to make it that far in this World Cup. If you look at them in the group stage, they're going to be playing against Morocco, against Brazil, and against Haiti. And I think they can beat Haiti, but against Morocco and Brazil, I just don't see them being able to get anything out of those games. And yes, they have some good players in the midfield. They got McTominay, they got Billy Gilmore, my Napoli boys. Obviously, they're going to ball out. And we saw it in that last World Cup qualifying game against Denmark. They were incredible. That comeback was insane. And the way that they made it right into this World Cup without having to do the playoffs is incredible. But in the World Cup, I just don't see them being able to make it that far. Moving on to the next country, we got Ghana. And once again, I'm going to put Ghana in the meh section. Ghana are a good team, a very historic team in Africa, but they didn't even make this AFCON. They weren't competing in the AFCON. So I don't really have that much to base this ranking off of. I haven't seen them play that much recently. Obviously, they weren't in the AFCON. And yes, they have some good players, but at the same time, some of their best players are aging players. And they do have some good youngsters, but once again, I just don't know if they're going to make it that far. One team that will make it far is Croatia, and I got to put Croatia in dark horses. It's the same thing every single World Cup. They are a dark horse. And actually, you know what? Fuck dark horse. We're putting them in contenders. This may be a little bit of a crazy ranking. Do I think Croatia are contending for the World Cup? It's a little bit tough to say. They do have some of the best players that are aging, but at the same time, Croatia have a very, very good youth system. They have some great teams like Dinamo Zagreb, Hajduk Split, and they produce a lot of great young talents. And we do see some great young talents in this Croatian team. So do I think they can make it far? Yes, 100%. Would I put them in dark horse or contenders? It's kind of in the middle. For now, I'm going to put them in contenders. Moving on to Haiti, their second World Cup in their history, but I think they will be exited in the group stage. Like I already mentioned, they're playing in the same group as Brazil, Morocco, and Scotland, and I don't see them being able to win any of those games. So I'm sorry, Haiti, but I gotta put you in group stage exit. Moving on to the next country, we got Iran, and I'm gonna put Iran in the meh section. I feel like Iran are a pretty good team, but we saw them struggle at the last World Cup. And yes, they have good players. They have Mehdi Taremi, they have Azmoun, and these are fantastic players. Mehdi Taremi is playing incredibly with Olympiacos. He's scoring many goals with them. But I'm not a big fan of Iran's manager. I feel like a lot of people have criticized his tactics and the way he plays football. And for that reason, I'm going to put them in meh. Moving on to the next country, we got Jordan. And you know what? Let me tell y'all something. I'm going to put Jordan in could surprise. Now, why am I putting them in could surprise? I don't think they can make it as far as a team like Cote d'Ivoire or Austria or Algeria, but I think they can make it a lot further than what some people expect. I feel like a lot of people are predicting them to exit in the group stage, and to be honest, I may be thinking that as well, but I feel like they are a very good team. We saw them play incredibly in the Arab Cup, and this year they've been fantastic. Now, yes, defensively, they may not be the best, but they can score goals, and for that reason, we could see them surprise a lot of people. Moving on to the next nation, we got Japan, and I have to put Japan in contenders. I just have to. I feel like Japan are always a team that are very, very strong. In the Asian Cup, they're always good. They're a great Asian team, a very historic Asian team. We see them in the World Cup a lot, and for that reason, I think they need to go in contenders. Now, yes, sadly, they have suffered a few really serious injuries. We see Wataru Endo, who got injured recently, and he may miss the World Cup. And obviously, one of their best attackers, Minamino, is also looking like he's going to miss the World Cup. So those are two really bad injuries for their team. But I still feel like they have the quality to make it to at least the quarterfinals. Moving on to South Korea, I'm going to put South Korea in could surprise. Now, I feel like a lot of people are ranking this South Korean team very highly, but for me, I just don't really see it. Yes, they've gotten some decent results recently, but for some reason, I feel like they won't have the best World Cup. Now, for me, it's between meh and could surprise. I'm going to put them in could surprise because I do think they are better than all the nations in the meh category, but I still don't feel like they're going to have the best World Cup. Moving on to the next team, we got Morocco, and Morocco are 100% contenders for the World Cup. I don't care what anybody says. Morocco are a fantastic team, and the Moroccan youth is incredible. This Moroccan team has some of the best youth players in the world. We see Moroccan players all around Europe's top 5 leagues, and they're such a good team. The way that their federation is being run, the way they bring up their youth players is incredible. It's unlike many other nations in the world. And in the AFCON, obviously, we saw them make it to the finals, which they did lose against Senegal. But I think they got a really good team. They got a good manager. They've been here before, and they're gonna do it again. Moving on to Mexico, one of the host nations. And for me, I just don't see it with Mexico. I just don't see them being able to do good. I'm putting them in the meh category. I feel like recently they have gotten a few good results. At the time of recording this video, their most recent game was a 4-0 win against Iceland, which was a very good result. But at the same time, I just don't see it with Mexico. They have a few good young players. Obviously, Gonzalez is an up-and-coming youngster in that striker position, and he has been okay, but I just feel like they won't have the best tournament. And it's sad for the host nations, but we already got Canada and Mexico in meh, and I think they're going to stay there. Moving on to the next nation, we got Netherlands. And Netherlands obviously are going to go in contenders. Are they favorites? No, but they are a very, very strong team. Obviously, they're managed by Ronald Koeman. And is he a good manager? He's okay. A lot of people do criticize him for his tactics, but I feel like the amount of talent that Netherlands has is incredible. Obviously, we see in the Eredivisie so many great young Dutch players, and even the experienced players like Van Dijk, players like Memphis Depay, who is bagging in loads and loads of goals during the qualifiers, are still playing fantastically. So for that reason, Netherlands are definitely contenders. Moving on to the next country, we got Norway. And for me, I've already said it so many times, Norway are the biggest and scariest dark horse in this World Cup. I think they're incredible. I think they got a great manager in Solbakken. I think they play some really good attacking football, and look at the players they got for their disposal in the attack and in the midfield. Players like Erling Haaland, Sorloth, Strand Larsen, Oscar Bob, Antonio Nusa. In the midfield, they got Sander Berg, they got Patrick Berg, they got Martin Odegaard. These are all top tier to world class players. They have such good attackers and midfielders. And yes, in the defense, they are lacking a little bit. I think they have some great fullbacks, for example, Julian Ryerson, but their center backs and their goalkeeper, it's definitely their weak point in their team. But if they can score more goals than they can concede, which we've seen them do multiple times in the qualifiers, scoring the most goals out of any other nation, I don't think they're going to have a problem making it at least to the quarterfinals. Moving on to the next nation, we got New Zealand, and sadly for New Zealand, I'm going to put them in group stage exit. Now, New Zealand are lucky because they're in that region where in most World Cups, we will be seeing them. They will qualify for majority of World Cups. And obviously, you know, they have a few decent players. We see Chris Wood in the attack, and we know that he can score goals. But other than that, I just don't really see them being able to do that much in this World Cup. Moving on to the next country, we got Panama. And for me, I got to put Panama in the group stage exit. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to put them in group stage exit. Actually, you know what? No. Change my mind again. We're going to put them in meh. Panama are a decent team. They have some good players, but I feel like in so many of the games they play, they're just playing for the draw. In their last 10 matches played in all competition, they've gotten 5 draws. And in majority of those games, they're either 0-0 or 1-1 draws. They don't really have the best attackers, and I don't feel like tactically they are the best team. Defensively, they're pretty good. They can defend some of these teams for sure, but I don't think they're going to make it that far. Moving on to the next nation, we got Portugal, and Portugal is definitely one of the favorites. I got to put them in the favorite section. They could possibly be in contenders. I could understand it if some people were to put them in contenders, but after they won the Nations League, I think that showed you how strong this Portugal team is. In my opinion, there's no way they're in contenders. I think they're definitely one of the favorites, definitely a top 5 team in the world. For me, their only issue is Roberto Martinez. I'm not a fan of him. I don't think he's a great manager, and I feel like this is another situation that's very similar to the likes of Belgium, where they're a great team, but I'm not a fan of their manager. But Portugal have a really good team, But once again, I'm not a fan of their manager. We saw it in the World Cup qualifiers where they were a really good team, but we saw a couple results that didn't go their way. For example, that 2-0 loss against Ireland where they just really struggled to score. And that's rare for Portugal because obviously the game after we saw them score 9 goals against Armenia, and they have great attackers. They have the experience, but their youngsters is what's really impressive in this team. And obviously we see some of the best players in the world on this Portugal's team. Players like Vitinha, players like Nuno Mendes. They have some really, really good players that were some of the best players in the world within the last year. But I'm not sure if they're going to be able to win the World Cup. I think they can definitely make it to the semifinals, but under Roberto Martinez, I feel like they may struggle in certain games. So for that reason, they're definitely the favorites. But I feel like if they have a different manager, I think they would be arguably the favorites to win this World Cup. Moving on to the next country, we got Paraguay, and sadly, I'm going to put them in the group stage exit. Yes, they could possibly pull off an upset. I'm pretty sure they're in the same group as Australia and USA, but I just don't really see them playing that well. So I got to put them in group stage exit. Moving on to Qatar, once again, I got to put them in group stage exit. For me, they do have a very impressive player in Akram Afif. I think he's a fantastic player, definitely their best player. But if anything happens to him, they are completely done. But even with him, I think they're done. I think they're in the same group as Canada, Switzerland, and possibly Italy, and I don't see them winning any of those games. Moving on to the next country, we got Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia, they could surprise. Saudi are producing a lot of good players. If you remember in the last World Cup, Saudi Arabia were actually the only team to defeat Argentina as they won 2-1. And obviously, Argentina did end up winning the World Cup. But Saudi Arabia were the only team to beat Argentina. So you never know. They could surprise once again. Moving on to Senegal. Once again, Senegal are contenders. Senegal are the other African team that I think are definitely contenders alongside Morocco. For me, Senegal are better than Morocco, and Senegal are actually very close to being one of the favorites. I think Senegal could make it to possibly the semifinals in this World Cup. Definitely the quarterfinals. Senegal are such a good team. They have so many good players, and under Pap Thiaw, obviously this AFCON was his first real test as the Senegalese manager, and he really impressed. I think his tactics were very good. In some of the games, they did struggle at the start of the game or at the start of the second half, but realistically, their squad is too good, and being led by Sadio Mane, who I think is probably one of the best African players of all time, they're definitely contenders. Moving on to Tunisia, I got to put them in the meh section. Realistically, before this AFCON, I was looking at Tunisia really closely, seeing how they perform. But in the attack, I don't think they were good enough. I felt like they were very good at holding possession, but I never really felt like they did much with that possession. So I think they can beat some of these other teams, but I don't think they're going to have a great World Cup. Moving on to USA, and a lot of people I see are putting USA in dark horses. For me, I don't think they're at that stage yet. I'm going to put USA in could surprise. I think USA are a really good team. Obviously, we see some standout players this season like Pulisic, like Weston McKennie. They have a lot of great players in Europe's top leagues. But at the same time, I don't feel like USA have the greatest chemistry. I feel like they have great individual brilliance. They have really good individual talent. And they have a great manager in Pochettino. But at the same time, I still don't feel like they have the experience to make it to the quarterfinals, which I've been hearing some people say, which I think is a little bit ludicrous. Yes, they're playing at home. Yes, they have a big advantage, but I don't think that dark horse category just yet. Moving on to the next country, we got Uruguay. And to be honest, I'm going to put Uruguay in meh. I don't think they were that good in the World Cup qualifiers. I don't think their manager Bielsa is a good manager. And yes, they have some good players, but I think I've seen a lot more impressive Uruguay teams within the last decade. I don't feel like they have the best team. I don't see them having a lot of good youngsters. And for that reason, I feel like they will have a disappointing World Cup. Moving on to Uzbekistan, and I love the fact that Uzbekistan is in this World Cup, but sadly for them, group stage exit. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to Uzbekistani fans. Yes, you could surprise me. You could surprise me. You could surprise a lot of people. And being managed by Cannavaro, who's obviously been to the World Cup, who's obviously won the World Cup, he's won the Ballon d'Or, but is he the best manager? In my opinion, I don't really think so. Yes, Uzbekistan have a lot of great youngsters, and they have some really good attackers as well, which are definitely unknown to a lot of people, but I just don't see them being making out of the group stages. And finally, the last team we have is South Africa, and South Africa I'm gonna put in the meh category. In the AFCON, I thought South Africa were okay. Their attack was really good. I think they have some great attackers. Players like Foster playing in that striker position can definitely score multiple goals. And they have a decent team. But defensively in that AFCON, they were so poor. And in these competitions like the World Cup, defense is really important. Teams like Ecuador, who have great defense, could really make it far. But a team like South Africa, who really struggle on the defense, I don't think they're going to have the best tournament. Yes, they can score goals, but I don't think they're as deadly as a team like Norway, for example, who can do with having a not so good defense because of how good they are going forward. And yes, South Africa are good going forward, but not good enough to make up for their poor defensive abilities. So for that reason, I put South Africa in the mess section. And that's the end of this video. That was my full World Cup 2026 ranking of every single country, where I have multiple teams in the favorite section, contenders, a few dark horses, but a lot of teams in the could surprise and the mess section. And you guys need to let me know in the comments if you agree with my ranking, because I feel like a lot of people may have some things to say about my ranking, but for me, this is just where I think these teams should go. I'm going to be making another World Cup ranking after we finish the playoffs and we see which other 6 teams will be playing in the World Cup. And at that time, probably at the beginning of April, I will do a full World Cup ranking. As always, remember to subscribe to the channel to help me hit 8,000 subscribers. I would really appreciate it. And as always, if you did enjoy this video, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more videos.